Okay, so we're right at noon, and I'm going to go ahead and get started and just welcome everybody to our first Midday Cafe of 2019. We're so glad to have you with us today, and just want to remind everybody what a great community we have here. So we really encourage you to invite your friends to this free monthly call. We'd love, the more people, the better. It's a great, robust community that we have, and so we'd love for you to spread the word. You may have heard me already mention that all of these calls are recorded, so we have a YouTube channel. So if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that, because then you can catch up and you can share them, and that link is right in your sidebar. Also wanted to let you know that we have a great Facebook page. So the IEA Enneagram Facebook page, or it's actually called Enneagram Great Lakes Facebook page, yes. Diana's given us the thumbs up. So it's a wonderful way to comment and to build our community. We have some great interactive discussions on there, and we've been having a lot of fun. So don't just like it, but if you could please comment on it, that helps to bring it up in the news feed so that other people can get an idea on what we're doing here in the Great Lakes region. Also, if you're not yet a part of our newsletter, we'd love for you to receive our newsletter so that you can find out about these calls and all of the events that are coming up. And so you can just put your email address in the sidebar there in the chat if you're not yet signed up, and we'll make sure you get on the list to sign up. Also want to let you know some Great Lakes region events that are happening in February. So if you're looking for an introduction to the Enneagram, we have Lori Tate. Lori, give us a little wave. Lori Tate's going to be doing one in Michigan in beginning of February 9th. And then in the Chicagoland area, Orion is going to be doing an introduction to the Enneagram, and that will be February the 23rd. And then Teresa and Erica will be doing a workshop on the Enneagram, and that will be in the Illinois area. So you have Illinois, Chicago, Michigan, and then we also have a retreat, an Enneagram retreat that's happening here in Michigan, that's led by Claire and Scott. And so that will be in Michigan, February 8th and 9th, with Motions of the Soul and the Enneagram. And if you are looking for a certification, we have a few opportunities here in the Great Lakes region for receiving your certification. And of course, one's with our Jerry Wagner. He does an Enneagram certification. And of course, our President, Claire Loridge, does the certification with Motions of the Soul. So if you're interested in those, that is also on the sidebar. And the global conference, IEA Global Conference, is coming up in July. This year will be in California. So if you're interested in going to that, we strongly encourage people to sign up and become a member of the IEA, and that has many benefits, especially if you go to the conference. You get $100 off your registration if you're an IEA member, but also at a local level, you get benefits, because if you're a professional member with the IEA and you have events or workshops or retreats that you are doing personally, we would love to help you market that and highlight that in our newsletter and on our social media. And make sure that if you do join, that you designate the Great Lakes region as your chapter, because we also get benefits as a chapter when you designate us as your chapter. So I believe that is all. And as Claire already said, please mute yourself. If you have a question, you can put it in the sidebar, and we'll make sure that we get to a point of questions. And from here, I'll turn it over to Claire, our president, and she will lead us with Ruthie in the discussion.
Well, thanks, Kathleen. We just want to say thank you for standing in for Erica today. You did a fabulous job. You're one of those people that we can count on hitting all the points and making sure we get it. So everybody give Kathleen, that's right. Give Kathleen a wave and say thank you. So what we know is that this kind of community is really helpful in keeping us sharp. keeping us in a position where we're paying attention to our attention so that we can bring intention to that attention. And when we think about the Great Lakes region, we are so rich with people. And Ruthie Landis happens to be one of the people that has been a great part of the community for many years. Ruthie was on the board when I think when I first came on the board some years ago, and somebody needs to be muted there, I think. Anyway, so what we know is that when someone like Ruthie is going to talk to us, she's been teaching the Enneagram for over 20 years, and she's a psychotherapist. So she actually does body psychotherapy and coaching. She utilizes many different modes with the Enneagram. She's certified through business groups and the psychological group. She has really given herself to learning the Enneagram from many different models. And we love that. Today specifically, she's going to be talking to us about how that wisdom has come together in her book, which is called Beyond the Book Club. And I want to just give you what Jerry Wagner said about this. He said, "Whereas I am the king of content, Ruthie is the princess of process. But now in Beyond the Book Club, she has combined content and process and an interactional manner and has become an alchemist of experiential learning, tendering transformation through her reflections and exercises." And he says a little more than that, but I will tell you, when you get that kind of a thumbs up from a 5 on the Enneagram for someone who uses body psychotherapy, you know that not only is she using experience, but she's using some competency that is really going to help us discover. So I want to open this up to the conversation around Beyond the Book Club. And so Ruthie, we welcome you. I don't see your face right now. I'm hoping you didn't leave us.
No.
Are you there, my friend?
I am
here.
There she is. Hallelujah. All right. So Ruthie, what does it feel like to be called an alchemist by Jerry Wagner?
Well, The Alchemist is really a favorite book of mine. So I don't know if you've all read The Alchemist, but it's kind of a book about following the Tao, being led, being open to where consciousness is taking you. So it's something I certainly strive for to follow where I'm being led to. And I think that's what happened with the book. That's like a great segue, I think, to where this book came from and why it's here. I have been working actually on so many books in my computer, and 2 more are going to be released this next year, where I'm weaving different modalities into the Enneagram. The next one that's coming out is called Acting Lessons for Living. And it's an Enneagram masterclass using the model, because I was a professional actress, director, writer, and using the model of motivation, how you play a scene, playing the scenes of your life with presence and intention. And so I had been working on all these other different things, and it's really the times struck me. For the last 2 years, I've been distressed and looking at, well, how could I be an activist in this time when I'm really not a marcher or don't have a lot of money to contribute to anything and not know that really matters anyway. So
yeah, Ruthie, could I even ask you, I think Michelle Obama was she was somebody who gave you a little fire.
Yeah, so 10 years ago when President Obama was elected, Michelle Obama stepped up and said, if you want this change that that you voted for, then you have to be of service. So at that time, a colleague and me decided to offer a year-long monthly pro bono workshops and it was directed literally at women, and it was called Reconnecting with the Woman Behind the Mother, A Journey Back to Self. And so it was these monthly workshops. I would weave the Enneagram in and be able to teach people who had never heard of the Enneagram, because one of the things that I have found over these 22 years I've been working with the Enneagram is that, you know, you say it to somebody and their eyes glaze over and resistance comes up really pretty quickly. And so if you can walk in through another doorway and then just give a little taster of it, and, you know, that seems to open to people, the Enneagram. So after that year, I just said, you know, people meet for book clubs, but, you know, there's got to be a way to let people sort of what I'm calling the now what, because we learn about the Enneagram, we go to the conferences, we read the books, this type is this type is that, but how do we really integrate it into our lives? How do we talk about it in community on a regular basis rather than waiting for the next big workshop? And I've done hundreds of workshops, and I know just getting people to come is hard, you know, even though I've been doing them for 30 years. So I thought, well, what if I could share my workshop designs with catalyzing essays? So fast forward, this colleague and I, life happened to us. My parents were sick and died. My father came to every workshop I ever gave. So he's here right now somewhere, sitting here with us, paying attention to this. And so it just got put away on a shelf, right? And I was working on how I want to approach the Enneagram is, and maybe it is a little bit different, but that to cultivate, like I do with my clients, okay, I can identify that this is my default number that I go to. And then I have these access numbers that I know are kind of coming in. But really, for me to be whole, I have to really claim all those sensibilities in myself, all 9 of them. So for me, typing is about taking yourself out of a box, actually, rather than keeping yourself in one, because it allows you to say, well, you know, and as an acting teacher, I would like go, okay, if I was teaching a master class using the Enneagram, I'd say, okay, so this week's assignment is that every day you have to wake up and you have to live your life through a different number. So you have to act as if you're a 7, if you're a 5, all day long, and try to see each experience through these different lenses. So getting back to why the book, so about 2 years ago, when things started to really shuffle up in our world and the divisiveness was rising, and I kept going, what can I do? What can I do? And then I went, oh, I could take that off the shelf that has been waiting. Mm-hmm. And so in May, I just sat down, and in about 2.5 months, I whipped out this little book, and it's 304 pages, so it's not so little, I guess. And so I want to just tell you a little bit about the book. What the book is I think, moving to the inner activist. You know, we can't change the world till we work with ourselves and really work with ourselves. And so what I've done is I have collaborators. As you say, I use different modalities. My book is Beyond the Book Club, We Are the Books We Must Read. And so how do we read the book that is us? And how do we write the book that is us? How do we keep writing it? And so I say, yeah, I wrote it sort of, but it was with the help of body, mind, heart, the Enneagram, nature, intuition, and the creative force. And I kind of use the creative force as creativity and also as consciousness, spirituality, etc. So each chapter, after the initial call to action, which is, come on, let's gather groups together, let's do this on a regular basis. Each chapter has a different theme. I'll just read a few of them offhand. The first one is decision making, big decisions. Whether I overuse yes, whether I overuse no, whether I overuse maybe. Where am I deficient? Where am I habitual? The next one is on, well, I just throw out a few. Receiving, self-forgiveness. They all kind of align. They all kind of align with a different a different number, a different fixation, for instance. And the last gathering is wholeness. How do I bring all this puzzle of all of these aspects of myself together? So each chapter is a short essay, and the essay is about that topic. And it's written from a very, very personal point of view. So
maybe, Ruthie, could we even talk about the chapter on receiving self-forgiveness? Could you, maybe we could just dive into the deep end of the pool here.
Yeah, which is my poem. The beginning of the book is about, is a poem about come with me. You know, let's dive in and go to the ocean of our psyche and not be afraid of what's there. And then how do we fly to the top of the mountain? I don't know if you can see this, but behind me, there is a picture. Can you see that as I tip? Yeah. So just 2 weeks ago, so I had this poem at the beginning of my book, and it's about seeing from above, flying from above, and this ocean. And a cousin of mine who died, and who's a great artist, and we have most of his art, all of a sudden, I released the book in October, and a month later, I get an email from a different cousin and said, do you have Lori Gold's, this picture? This is the artist proof. And I said, oh my God, that's my poem. And it's got every aspect of the poem at the beginning of the book, which is an invitation to dive in with me. And I really just felt like it was like Lori saying, hey, you know, I'm right here with you. You know, this is it. It's very moving. So that's what's really behind me. So let's talk about receiving. Okay, so as a 2, you can imagine that I have had to work on this for a very long time. And it was interesting yesterday, Claire, when we talked briefly, and you asked me how I was. And I said, I was sad because I have a friend of mine died yesterday, and I have a lot of people with illness and a lot of clients with a lot of challenges right now. And I was sad. And you said something, you know, you said, well, it's time to call in the helpers. And I said, yeah, you know, I'm the helper, but calling in the helpers is really important for me too. Like to spread the word of this book, which I really feel is pivotal in learning how to practice what we learn about the Enneagram and about, you know, life in general, in community. And whether that's with your husband or spouse, whether that's with your family. I have used many of these things with my family and in family therapy. Whether that's in a spiritual organization, or whether that's just saying, hey, you know, I want to have a monthly meeting. And they're just 3 to 5 page essays, so that's all you have to read. And they're really rich and really catalyzing. And then what follows them is a gathering design. So these are all designs that I've done for workshops. And I lost you, Claire. I'm seeing, I think it's, what is that, Rosemary? Or
can you see it? Can you see me now?
There you go.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So so what follows is I created a script, and so there's someone who will take on the role of the MC, which would be the facilitator, but it's all in script form. Like, this is what we're going to do next. This is the activity that's next. let's start by creating sacred rules of engagement so that we create a safe container about this. And then the MC kind of leads the group through some of these activities. And then there's a music master. And of course, I have music recommendations because that's a heart opener. And so the music master, they're in charge of getting some music that can be played at different times during the gathering.
Could you give us just a little taste from Receiving Self-Forgiveness? Like what is the essay about in short, just in a short way, if you could tell us, and then what you might guide in.
Yeah, well, sure. The essay on receiving isn't self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is another chapter, but receiving is about, it kind of starts with the idea that receiving is very vulnerable. And it's hard to receive for lots of different reasons. We're not maybe so much in control. We're afraid of being disappointed. From a 2 point of view, it's like, I really want to be able to receive, right? But it's very vulnerable. And then, the 2's idea often is, well, if I ask and then someone says no, or they don't do it how I would do it, then I'm going to be very, very disappointed. And I share how in my marriage, when I married my husband many, many years ago, I was 22 when I got married and I didn't know the Enneagram. This was a terrible piece of trauma for us because he wasn't a real good gift giver and I was already knowing what he wanted before he even asked for it, and the dance that we've had to do with that over time required really for me to be able to first give myself what I need, to be able to access what it is I really want, and to be able to give that to myself and to be transparent about what I need and to put it in a reasonable expectation. Because I think what happens for the 2, because we cut it off so much, we're always so disappointed, and so then we don't ask, and it's been such a rich dance for us to do over the years, and I speak about that, and I speak about how we have healed that and how we've worked with that, because he's a 6 and he came from a family that didn't give, really. They would give money. They didn't give much attention and they didn't give gifts that easily. And, and so it was a perfect match, right? A perfect match for us to learn from each other and to be teachers with each other. So then the workshop design really works with bit by bit, through music, what opens my heart to be able to receive, what makes me get in a stance that doesn't cut that off. And the different activities, I really don't want to give it all away. I want you to get the book and I want you to read what the activities are. But like one thing is, so because all of these different aspects are part of it, there would be an activity on right away of a questionnaire. And the questionnaire is to the mind. And it's asking, well, when can you receive? And this is any number, right? What makes it easy for you to receive? What makes it hard for you to receive? And so the mind is engaged immediately through questionnaire. After the questionnaire, there is always some kind of a body activity that drops us into our body and says, well, I'll just share what I did to change my stance with receiving and giving, because there's a chapter on giving and sacrifice that follows. That's a different gathering. Was that the way I lived my life was, so in yoga, there's something called a mudra. And a mudra is the embodiment in the body of intention. So what I did for 1 year was I lit a candle every morning. And instead of I don't know if you can see me, but instead of me giving till I was dry and empty, and then taking a little bit back. So always sort of operating with on fumes, you know. And I think like when they say that twos can get hysterical or over dramatic, I think this is really pivotal because I think that twos are tired and worn out and they don't have much in their gas tank because they're so putting their attention on giving out, but not in restoring and nourishing themselves. So for a year, what I literally did was light a candle and I played with taking in from the universe to myself till I felt full, and then giving back, and then taking in, and then giving back. So one of the activities is working with that mudra, and then inviting people to, well, what do you need? How would you retrain the neurological the pathways? How would you train that in your body to attend to this issue of receiving differently? And so eights will have their issue with it and around control, right? And the twos around their worthiness, right? And whether they're deserving or not. So and then there will always be an activity that says, well, how does this type relate to this topic? So each of these topics have a certain impact to each type. And so there are activities, whether that's through diet or very creative, experiential kinds of activities, that will address the Enneagram aspect of it, but using these other pieces. So there always will be a creativity piece in it. And people can approach this book where they could just really read out loud the essay and talk about it. And it could just stop right there. Or they could say, well, I like this activity. Let's just do one of these activities. Maybe it's a little too scary at first. But these are tried and true, and they really work, and they fit in a 3-hour time slot. And I've done them innumerable times. So I guess I don't want to give everything away because I want.
Well, you're whetting our appetite. You're whetting our appetite. In fact, we have Kathleen, who's an 8, who says, because I have a false belief, receiving can be seen as weakness. Type 1, who says, Wendy, she says, because it would communicate that I am bad and not good enough. It's hard for me to receive, right? Lori, who's a 6, says, because it shows me that I don't have enough if I need to receive. And the 9, Scott says, not always aware of my own need to receive. So isn't that it? Yeah. So what? That's so
beautiful. It's just so beautiful because we're looking at our type, or our types, our access points too that are feeding that, and our familial Enneagram overlay on top of that. What culture I'm coming from has a lot to do with it. No, you have to just give. You shouldn't receive. So I feel like going through these different topics, and then ending the 12th gathering is on wholeness. And there's one activity, there's a wonderful movie out there, if you haven't seen it, called Puzzle. And this woman, it's just such a beautiful movie. I'm pretty sure a 9, I would say. And she is very self-forgetting. And she just is a servant in her household. And she doesn't know herself at all. And then for her birthday, which she gave the party, and nobody gave her anything, and she gave the party, and somebody gave her a puzzle. And as everybody leaves, she's kind of mad, and she's alone, and she takes this puzzle out, and she throws it on the table, and she sits down, and it's like 1,000-piece puzzle. And she just has this knack of putting it all together. And it is the launching point for her to find the pieces of herself. and to put herself together. So one of the activities in the wholeness gathering, the last gathering, is that we write on a piece of paper all these different aspects of ourselves, some that we like and some that are shadow, some that are our dark, kind of ugly places that we think are ugly. And then we cut this piece of paper apart in a puzzle form. And then we do a little kind of experiential stuff. That's a little alchemy, I would say. And then at the end of the workshop, after we've worked on various other pieces of, where's the holes? Where's the gap? We take these pieces of paper and we retape them together and we reclaim our wholeness. And it includes different numbers of the Enneagram that we have and different aspects of ourselves. So these are all kinds of activities that are in the book, and they're just really user-friendly, really easy to do. And that's an example. Somebody says, Ruthie recommends a wonderful called puzzle. So anyway, what else?
So one of the comments was, or even the questions that was asked was, what type are you and what opens your heart to receive? But then it was followed up with, do you have a ritual that helps you to receive? So I love that, because you did this movement of you're always giving out, giving out, giving out. So whereas a 5 might be, I'm always containing. And how do I release and give out? So I just wonder if, even if there's just a go around the circle and just say 9s, a ritual for you, just to even spark an idea. A ritual for you might be in a body movement.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would never presume to do that.
Okay.
Because I just feel there's certain assumptions that are being made around that, and I'm very careful with that. I really want it to come organically from the person themselves, not from an idea of type. So I'm not doing it because I couldn't do it, because I think I could do it. And if I was working one-on-one with someone, I might be able to lead them there. But, I think what's most important is the examination of getting to the soul of what makes it easy to receive for me, and what are those situations, and with whom. Because, I can talk generally about the 3 centers. So the 3 centers, that would be easy for me to do. So the 3 centers around receiving would have something to do with control and, empowerment and giving away that power a little bit. So what would make me, as a body type, as a control and power type, I might have to look at surrender. How does that feel in my body to surrender, to be able to put myself in a stance where I'm not in control and where I feel supported. So right away, things like my feet come to mind, rather than, look, in my mudra was heart, like this giving, receiving, taking in. Guess where I was putting it? I was putting it into my heart, and it was coming from my heart. So I think most mudras that I would, or something that a person could create that was a heart type, would probably have a lot to do with that chakra, that part of their body around there. People who are gut types and body types, starting with the feet, where's my support? Do I allow support? Can I even give into that? Like, the primary receptivity for a body type is, how does the universe support me? That I don't have to be God, and I don't have to be the one who is holding everything up and controlling. So the primary receptivity might not be in being able to receive a gift. It might be, in a relationship, but it might be, can I receive support from the universe? Can I receive it from the earth beneath me, from this chair that I'm sitting on. Could be very simple that way. And then if I was going to move to the, the fear-based types, you said something like, someone said, the sixth said, because it shows that I don't have enough, and that's very 5 too. It's like scarcity. So a thought that enough to what? I don't have enough to what? I don't have enough to be safe, to survive, to thrive. So then what does that mean? Like, how does that feel in my body at those moments when I have felt safe? Like on my intake form, when I'm seeing a new client, the last question is, if you could imagine a safe place, what would that be? And if you were to invite someone into that place, what would you ask of them? And if there is no safe place, which for many fear-based types, there is not, what would be safe enough? And so what does safety feel in the body of a 5, 6, 7? What's the destination? Where do I want to get to? So for me, in creating mudra for myself, it was, well, I want to get to a place where I'm not giving from fumes. I'm not giving from an emptiness, because that's what creates the neediness in it too. It's not that they're needy. They're strong people and they're competent people, but they give so much away in their attention that there's just nothing left for them. And I think that when we talk about neediness from a 2, it really is because they haven't learned to fill their tanks first. And then there's surplus, right? And if there's surplus, then what I'm giving is not coming from a lacking place. And that surplus, then there's no resentment later on, because I'm already full. Look I have this extra to give. So that's how I would create a mudra for me. But to create a mudra for someone else would be to look at, when do I feel least safe, right? And when do I feel most safe? And then I'm going to create something in my body, a movement that is going to go from empty to full. And it will look different for each type. Do you know what I'm saying? So,
I do. Yeah, it's beautiful. And, so even if you could help our friend, the 4, Dizo, he says, I need to be sure that receiving is authentic and not a fake response.
Yeah. So that receiving, so I want to ask you the question then, Dizo. So is it that you don't trust what someone is giving to you, or you don't trust your worthiness and your deservingness to take that in fully? It's like the other day I was talking to my husband about, when people compliment me. And I've worked really hard, because I know compliments are projections. Approval and disapproval, it's all projection. It's all coming from that person, And so working to say, well, okay, the reason you can say that about me is because that's what you already have in yourself. So then that compliment really is about something in you. Then it is, but then, well, then how do I take that in? And do I need to take that in? Do I not stop it? I talk about when I was an actor, a young actor, I always hated taking a bow at the end of a show. I just hated it. I just wanted to give them my performance and then leave the stage and not hear their applause. And my mom said to me, that's so ungracious of you, because you've just been giving, your gifts out, and you're not allowing them to give you something back. And that's selfish on your part. So, to come back to the 4, I would think, how are you protecting yourself even by that question? I can't hear.
Hi, I am Rania. I am the type 4. I'm just
Yes.
using Dito's account because my laptop is working.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Dito is a type 5. So,
Yeah.
Well, sometimes I feel, especially when it comes to receiving love and affection, that sometimes it's not real and it's not authentic, and that people or the person I need to feel this from, it's giving it to me out of pity. It's not out of real affection.
Yeah.
Or just some sort of avoiding useless talk from their point of view.
Yeah.
And they don't get that this kind of emotion, it is very important for me to keep going, and to feel loved and understood. It's like a fuel to keep me going.
Yes, of course.
So people underestimate this.
So there's 2 pieces that I would respond to in that. The first thing is that, I give a workshop called 9 Ways of Giving and Receiving Love. And so what a 4 might say is, you're giving me love and it's inauthentic. Well, you're using a measurement tool that is coming from your 4-ness, but that other person is coming from the way they give and receive love. And so, for a 5, it might be through an observation, right? And they might think that that's very loving on their part, and it may not feel that way at all to you, not at all. My husband's a 6, so his way is problem solving, right? He's going to problem solve every problem that comes up, and that doesn't feel like love to me, but it truly is love. It's his way of loving. So immediately when I hear you say it's inauthentic, I would really pause and say, well, how am I determining that? Like, what is my filter around it? And my sense is, for all of us heart types, so look at, for a 4, and I have huge 4 energy, and you can see the way I dress and everything. And actually, the 4 energy was a huge healing component for me, because it turned me away from the other and back to myself. So people come into my home or see the way I dress, and they might judge a book by its cover and say that I'm a 4.
Exactly.
But I'm not a 4. I'm a 2. And I have used the 4, bless you, 4, to develop myself. Okay? But what I would know about all the heart types is that we have this secret that we're really not worth being given to. And so that makes it really hard for anybody to be very successful at giving to us. It really does. It does create a kind of no-win situation. And they're always going to fall short. I'm going to reveal something to you. And this is a huge revelation. So, it was a source of great mortification to me. But I was at a Russ Hudson workshop like way long ago. And he did this one thing, and thank God I was matched up with my best friend, because if this had not been my best friend, I don't know what I would have done. But the question had to do with, take, this thing that's causing you suffering, and ask your dyad partner, how are you attached to that? So my thing was, that my husband was always disappointing me, right? And so the question was, well, how are you attached to his disappointing you? And you answer the question and they say thank you, and then they ask it again. And you go a little deeper, say thank you. And finally, around the sixth time she asked me the question, I said, because I'm better than him then. When he disappoints me, I'm better than him. And it was so mortifying that it came out of my mouth. I wanted to throw up, really. I just wanted to throw up because I was like, oh my God, I created this no-win situation for him. And why do I want to be better than him? Well, because I'm so vulnerable, really, around being less than him. So it just was pivotal for me. So I ask you, to look inside of yourself and say, how am I attached to not being happy with the love that's being given to me and the way it's being given to me?
Yeah, thank you, Ruthie. And I wonder too, so that's great for the heart types. I'm wondering about our head types here.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the 7 comment from Shauna saying, receiving for me requires being present and aware of pain and joy and needs, which as a 7, I struggle to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I also think that for a 7, okay, so if we're coming from the secret, like I taught when I describe the Enneagram types, and I use inner monologues in my book. I don't like talk about them. I say this is what I feel, and this is my secret. This is what, and I strategize around that secret all the time because I don't want people to know my secret. So for a 7, its life is short. And am I going to get everything I need before I die? And so for a 7, it's often like this hunger, this tremendous hunger. And so the mudra that I would create around that has to do with how is everything here right now, just as it is? Like, how am I already full? If I died right this minute, would I have had enough? I had a great Alexander teacher, and she taught us to get our bodies into a place of openness and receptivity. We have to say, I have all the time that I need. All the time that I need. That means if I died tomorrow, I had every bit of time that I needed. And that speaks so much to the 7 energy that lives in all of us. I mean, how much love is enough for a heart type? How much money or security or adventures is enough for a head type? How much control and manifestation for a body type would be enough? How much would it really be enough to make that hunger go away?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is beautifully put. And even as we're approaching the 50-minute mark, I just wonder, if there are any final thoughts you have, Ruthie, before I guide us in a meditation to close.
Well, the world needs us right now. It needs us so badly. It needs us to start doing the work here with the shadows and the shame. On the back of my book, I said that the book was written because the universe is screaming for people to wake up and to be emotional and internal activists with themselves. And so, nobody gets rich on a book. I'm here to tell you. Okay. And for me, this picture with the books flying with wings is saying, I ask you people to, not about buying my book, but start communities of learning communities of where people can be intimate with each other and learn from each other. And I mean, I've handed you all my workshops. 12 workshops, not all, I have hundreds of them, but 12 of my workshops, I just gave them to you. So use them and impact a world that needs us so badly right now. That's how I would end.
Well, why don't we first say thank you before we close in meditation? Because when I asked you yesterday to call on the helpers, we have called on a helper today for us, and you've given us a way to see. You've given us a way to be curious. You've given us a way to want to open to love, both giving and receiving. And you've been a beautiful instrument to us today. And so we thank you, Ruthie.
Well, thank you. Thank you, because you all have the power to love better yourself and the world. Really.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
So let's just take a moment and get comfortable. Whether you're in your chair or you're lying down, feel free to turn off your video if you want to. You're welcome to do that. And just begin to breathe. And begin breathing in a way that makes you aware that you are alive on this day. And if you are alive and here, then there is a way to activate your inner activist. And so breathing, take 3 or 4 deep breaths. In the great words of Irenaeus, it is the glory of God for human beings to be fully alive. And so knowing that your head and your heart and your gut have been given as a part of this inner activism. And maybe you can even begin to breathe, noticing your feet on the ground and that the earth is supporting you, that gravity is working in your behalf. And so from the bottom of your feet, moving up all the way into your heart space, that you have the ability to give and receive love. And all the way up through the head, at ways to observe, be curious, and imagine. And that this awareness of your created life can do good work in the world. You have been created for service in some way, activism in some way that is unique to you, never to be replicated on the earth again. Your own spiritual DNA is yours and yours alone. And so as we say goodbye to one another, we just say, be fully alive and be the book you were meant to be. Amen. Peace.